All right, check it out. There's these narratives floating around about people who are quote unquote deconstructing the faith systems that they grew up in. And I'm sure you've probably heard these same narratives. They always go something like this. Well, those people, they just want to believe whatever feels good. They want to do whatever they want to do. Or I've heard it worded this way. They just don't want to submit to what's clearly written in the scriptures. And I've even heard they're in rebellion and refuse to accept accountability. I've heard this stuff for years now. And every single time it always seems to strike the same nerve with me, primarily because it's always fueled by assumptions that well-intentioned people make that are just categorically untrue. See, I've loved Jesus since I was a kid. I was that teenager who felt called to vocational ministry, and I dedicated my entire life and the life of my family to serving God. I based my entire worldview on these scriptures. They became the lens that I saw every single life issue through. And I spent the better part of 3 decades working hard to understand and interpret these ancient texts that I was convinced held the keys to any and every single one of life's circumstances that I could or would ever face. And the interesting thing is, the deeper that I went studying these scriptures, the more the ground began to actually shift beneath my feet. I'd learned something unique as I studied the text or while preparing for a sermon that would inevitably totally upend something that I thought I already had the answer to. And this wasn't like a random occurrence. This happened over and over and over again. So for me, digging deeper wasn't rebellion, it was revelation. And every time something broke, something truer was being built. And in case you're wondering, that's not a crisis of faith. That's literally what the work of faith actually looks like. Wrestling through and digging deeper and refusing to settle for what you were handed or what you read at face value when you pick up the scriptures. It's a journey. It's a pursuit. Faith is movement. Faith asks questions. Faith doubts. Faith wrestles, and faith grows. But you know what doesn't grow? Certainty. Certainty already knows. Certainty locks the door and calls it protection. But real faith leaves the door cracked because it's not afraid of what might walk through. Here's what I realized though. That kind of faith, it's not really that compatible with most communities of faith that I see today. The ones who already have it all figured out with nice, neat lines, charts, and summarized in organized binders or in a what we believe section of a website. And that's where the heartbreak started for me. Because in so many of the spaces and conversations that we walked into after our own life totally fell apart, questions, they weren't welcomed. They were weaponized. Doubt wasn't seen as depth. It was seen as danger. And so when we started naming our pain and calling out the hypocrisy and wondering why our faith no longer looked or sounded like Jesus, many of those in the types of church communities that we were raised in, they didn't pull us close. They pushed us out. And that's the same story of so many people that I talk to who are in the process of deconstructing and reconstructing their faith. So now, because of that, there's this growing number of people who still love the way and heart of Jesus deeply, but honestly can't find the Jesus they know inside the very walls that bear his name. They didn't walk away from faith. They followed Jesus out the door. So when people say that deconstruction is just moral relativism, that's totally missing what's actually happening here. People aren't trying to just believe whatever they want or do whatever they want or rebelling against the system. They're trying to believe in a God who isn't held hostage by systems of control, agenda, and manipulation. They're not rejecting Jesus. They're rejecting the smallness and constriction that's been sold in the name of Jesus. So take this from somebody who's been there. And in many ways, if I'm being honest, still is. The right response to someone who's deconstructing isn't suspicion, it's empathy, it's curiosity, it's drawing close, it's conversation, it's love. Because when the church becomes a place where questions aren't safe and people who are doing the questioning are vilified, that's when those who are deconstructing will just abandon ship. And if the institution loses people but keeps its power, I would submit to you that it's already lost its soul. Food for thought.